So much of the Bible is stories and accounts of men. The Bible is full of famous men. Of course, there's the Lord Jesus himself. There is Adam. There is Noah. There is Abraham and Moses and Joshua and David. And then in the New Testament we have Peter and Paul and John. But of course there's many wonderful women too, famous women like Mary, the mother of Jesus, and Mary and Martha and so on. But you know, there's lots of characters in the Bible that we can learn from that are not so well known. And again, we would think most of these are men, and most probably they are, but there are many, many lesser known women in the Bible. So I would like to start a short series on lesser known Bible heroines. The character that I want us to look at in today's lesson is a woman of courage, and her name was Jehosheba. Jehosheba. And we find the account of this amazing lady in 2 Kings and 2 Chronicles. Let's have a little bit of background to this lady. There was a couple in the Old Testament, and they were perhaps the most evil couple in all the Bible. And of course that was Ahab and his wife Jezebel. Evil, wicked people, and they were judged by God. Well, the daughter of this couple was a woman named Athaliah. Now, we don't have time to go into all the history of that account. We'll leave that maybe for some other time. But Athaliah obviously learned from her father and mother, and she was one incredibly wicked woman. In fact, evil was the right term for this woman. She was evil. Now, her son was killed. He was actually executed for his sins. And so there were remaining a number of heirs, H-E-I-R-S, heirs to the throne of Judah. And so when this woman, Athaliah, saw that her son was dead, she decided to kill all the other heirs to Judah. She decided to get rid of those who were to be on the throne of Judah, the line of David. And so she killed every single one. Well, she thought she did. And then she reigned for 6 years in Judah. This woman reigned. But what she didn't know was that there was a special lady named Jehosheba. Jehosheba was married to the high priest, Jehoiada, at the time. And Jehosheba, through marriage, it's a little bit complicated, but through marriage, Jehosheba was the auntie of one of the heirs of the throne. And this young fella's name was Joash. And unbeknownst to this wicked woman, Athaliah, Jehosheba, the auntie of Joash, took Joash and hid him for a number of years. He was hidden. And his nurse, the lady that looked after this baby, she hid them and they were safe. And then sometime after this wicked woman Athaliah was executed. And it's very, very unusual, and it's very apt that when she was executed in the place of the horses. And that was exactly what happened to her mother Jezebel. She was trodden underfoot by the horses and eaten of the dogs, a terrible end. But she was a wicked, wicked woman. But I want us to focus on this lady Jehosheba. And I don't think anything else is said about this lady apart from the fact that she was very, very courageous. She put her life on the line. I'm sure if it had been known what she had done, the queen, Athaliah, would have had her killed, no doubt about that. She was a very bloodthirsty woman. But Jehosheba was a woman of courage. And when I read the story of Jehosheba, I think of other women who have had great courage, and one comes to mind. And I'm going to read to you for the next couple of minutes the story of Corrie ten Boom from World War II, a very famous lady, and I'm sure there are many others like her, but she was one lady who became very, very famous. Listen as I read a little bit about her life story. Corrie ten Boom was born in Amsterdam in 1892 to Cornelia and Caspar ten Boom, a dedicated watchmaker. Corrie ten Boom decided to follow in her father's footsteps and became the first female watchmaker licensed in Holland in 1922. In May 1942, a Jewish woman arrived at the door of their house, telling them that she had heard that the ten Booms had helped their Jewish neighbours. She said that her husband had been arrested, her son had gone into hiding, and now the occupation authorities had visited her home again, making her too afraid to go back. Although ten Boom and her father knew the risks, the local police headquarters was only half a block away. He immediately invited her in, saying, "In this household, God's people are always welcome." It was the beginning of a new role for the whole family: active participation in the Dutch resistance against the Nazis in World War II. The ten Booms took advantage of the extra space in their home to house refugees, but with wartime shortages in full swing, getting enough food proved to be a problem. Only non-Jewish Dutch citizens had been issued with ration cards. Corrie ten Boom knew the civil servant in charge of the ration office. She went to his house one night and asked to be issued more ration cards. He asked how many she needed. "I opened my mouth to say 5, she remembered later, but the number that unexpectedly and astonishingly came out instead was 100. He gave them to her and she started distributing them to Jews in need. Over time, the Dutch resistance decided to improve the hiding place. A resistance architect helped design and build a secret room next to ten Boom's bedroom, where refugees and travelling resistance agents could hide, as well as an alarm to warn fugitives if authorities were about to enter the home. Throughout 1943 and the first months of 1944, the ten Booms had 5 or 6 people concealed in their home at all times, waiting for passage to other safe houses. All told, an estimated 800 people made their way through the ten Booms rescue network. On February 28, 1944, though, a Dutch informant tipped off the Nazis about the ten Booms' involvement in the resistance, and the police raided the house. When they discovered resistance materials and extra ration cards there, the whole family was arrested and sent to a prison. Her father, Caspar, became ill and died in the hospital prison 10 days later. The 6 people who had been hiding in the secret room, however, were not discovered. Later in prison, Corrie received a letter stating that all the watches in your cabinet are safe. In other words, informing her that the resistance had successfully moved the refugees to a safe location. Corrie ten Boom was held in solitary confinement for 3 months before she and her sister, Betsy, were sent to the political concentration camp and then on to the Ravensbrück women's camp. Betsy's health deteriorated in the awful conditions and she died on December 16, 1944. 15 days later, Corrie ten Boom was released. She later learned that her release was a clerical error and that shortly after she left, all of the women in her age group had been sent to the gas chambers. She returned to Holland, which was in the grip of a terrible famine that killed thousands of people in the country. She immediately threw open her home's doors to those in need once again, this time sheltering people with intellectual disabilities who feared execution under the occupying forces. After the war, Corrie ten Boom opened a rehabilitation centre in Bloemendaal that served both concentration camp survivors and former Nazi collaborators who struggled to find work. She became an inspirational public speaker who appeared in more than 60 countries and urged reconciliation as a path to healing. The ten Boom house has since been turned into a museum as both a memorial to her family and a reminder of the importance of standing up against injustice. Ten Boom also wrote many books, including The Hiding Place, which tells the story of her family's work to help refugees during the war. She hoped that her writing would stand the test of time and ensure that this time of heroism and horror was not forgotten. Books do not age as you and I do, she wrote. They will speak still when you and I are gone, to generations we will never see. What we need today is young men and young women of courage. Maybe courage is needed now more than it has for many, many years. Courage at school, to have a testimony for Jesus. Courage at home, to be obedient. Courage at work. Courage at university. I love the passage in Joshua chapter 1. In fact, I read it this morning in my devotions. In verse 9, have not I commanded thee, be strong and of a good courage, be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed, for the Lord thy God is with thee, whithersoever thou goest. Young people, be courageous. Go in the strength of the Lord. As the song says, stand up for Jesus. This is not a time to become worldly. This is not a time to be timid. This is a time to stand up for Jesus. We are to be kind. We are to be loving. We are to help others. But we must have courage, and God will give us the courage. Until next time, see you then.